What is up, YouTube? My name is Evan, and today, if you like what you see, go ahead and give that like button a little bit of your lovin'. We are going to be looking at one of my favorite decks in quite a while, and that's going to be Flareon EX, but we're going to be looking at it through the lens of expanded format, which in many ways looks pretty similar, but there are some key changes, and we're going for a pretty aggressive build, because that's kind of what you have to do with Flareon EX. So we're running 4 Flareon EX. It's our primary attacker, most definitely. We're backing it up with 2 copies of Team Magma's camera up, because that's really all you need is to set one up, and we got 2 Magma Nummels to go with it. We really just want to get one up, but getting 2 up, of course, is not necessarily a problem, and it's nice to be able to set up a second one in the event that the first one gets knocked out. So do kind of try not to let those get sent to your discard pile if you can avoid it. Our one backup attacker is Entei. Yeah, we're in expanded, but realistically, this guy's still pretty much the best backup attacker there is overall. His combat plays is just yielding you the best damage, the best return for a Pokemon who's also not an EX, which can be very useful since it's only surrendering that one prize. It still likes fighting Fury Belt, it likes to 2-hit KO things, Burning Roar can ditch supporters for us, etc., while simultaneously pulling out energies. He just makes the most sense in the end. And the last 2 Pokemon in the deck are going to be Shaman EX for all the right reasons. That's our entire lineup as far as Pokemon go. We're running 3 copies of Professor Sycamore, which honestly is pretty much the most we're going to need. We should be able to hit him no problem, and room in the deck is pretty tight. We're also running 3 Blacksmith. It may seem like a lot, but this is our supporter of choice, and we really, really need it to help set up our Flareons. It's just the bread and butter of the deck at the end of the day, is blacksmithing Flareon to get those big high-powered knockouts. That's all there is to it. And if we can draw the blacksmiths into our hand without having to spend all our Versus Seekers to keep our blacksmiths going, that's good, because we want to capitalize on the utility of our other supporters with our Versus Seekers, rather than having to just use them pretty much exclusively to get our blacksmiths back. Now, we are running 1 copy of N, because it's probably the most utilitarian alternate card draw we've got. It's good in the early game. It can also help preserve our camera ups, which is nice. It's pretty solid in the mid game, and in the late game, it's either going to be a solid kind of like comeback option, or you're not going to need it because you're already winning. So it's a nice one of that we can Versus Seeker out, most absolutely. AZ is another one that we're including as a VS Seeker target. It can be great for getting Magma's camera up out of the active slot if it gets Lysandered in and you don't have a float stone. It can deny prizes off Flareon and you don't mind the energies going to your discard pile, etc. We're also running 1 copy of Lysander, just for picking up those great knockouts. Easily targets down Shamans, and yeah, sometimes Hoopas as well. And we're also running Hex Maniac. They're just one too many things that we want to punch through. And Hex Maniac can shut off other things. It can be a nice early game if you need to shut off your opponents. Like if you go first, to shut off things like Shaman EX, for example, or Jirachi EX. So it's just a nice way to get through things. Ultimately, it's included to stop things that are going to safeguard, etc. Since Lysander's not quite enough on its own, but it does have other applications, which is nice. Our ace spec is going to be Computer Search without a doubt. Its ability to discard things to our discard pile is fantastic, and get anything to make sure we kind of go off is just fantastic. There's just no other ace spec that really makes any sense. I mean, you can make arguments for things like Dowsing Machine, but realistically, it's Computer Search in this build. Most definitely. And a very similar card for us, also discarding 2 cards to kind of expedite us at the same time, is Ultra Ball, as oftentimes this will get us what we need to keep going. This gets us Shaman a lot of the time, but it can also find things like Magma Camera up, and of course it isn't out to Flareon if you can't seem to draw one of your 4 copies any other way. And we're running 4 Versus Seeker, which, I mean, running Versus Seeker is pretty obvious by now, at least it should be. And getting our energy flowing and hitting hard and hitting fast, we are running 4 copies of Max Elixir. It may seem like a lot, but if you play all your cards kind of in the correct order, the idea here is to get everything out very quickly and also to empty your hand. And Max Elixir does that just beautifully. Remember, of course, it only powers up basic Pokemon, but that's fine because Flareon can flash fire those energies off of anything, even stuff like Shaman. So you definitely want to play those in most cases pretty much as soon as you get them. We're also running 3 Battle Compressors. Just compress fire energies after you've Max Elixired if possible. And only put in as much fire as you're really going to need. Don't just mindlessly bury all your fire energies, of course. Save some because you're going to want to draw some and you're going to want to be able to elixir some as well. And this buries your utilitarian one of supporters very nicely. We're running 3 copies of Trainer's Mail. This is once again just to kind of keep us going, make sure we can go off, so to speak, and play things out of our hand to capitalize on Shaman and whatnot. We're running 4 copies of Fighting Fury Belt because Flareon EX, that 210 HP is usually enough to take us out of one-shot range for a lot of things. So it's very important. And the extra 10 damage, I mean, it can matter because it's the difference between picking up certain knockouts and not picking up others. But honestly, mostly this is just here for the HP. I mean, the knockouts we will pick up by promoting, say, from 110 to 120 or so on and so forth in that regard. I mean, that can be nice, but like I say, it's pretty much just for the HP. I mean, who are we kidding, honestly? We're honest with ourselves. That's what it's about. We're running 2 copies of Scorched Earth. This is a counter stadium, and it's mainly just a way to send some energies away and get some cards and keep going. So it's just a nice card like that. 1 is not enough, and 3 is far too many, and they can stack up in your hand. So 2 is sort of the sweet spot on that. And we're running 2 float stones. Obviously, just slap these down almost invariably on your Team Magma camera to make sure it's not a Lysander target, and you are good to go. It looks a lot like the standard deck, but there are a few changes, and we are, like I say, trying to aggress with it. We're running 12 energies, and the reason is because we are running those max elixirs, and we are also going to have to bury some for our blacksmiths, but we want to be able to top deck them occasionally, so 12 seems to be sort of the great number for that. And there is one honorable mention card for this deck in Expanded, and that is Colress. I could not quite find the place for it, but if you playtest it and there's a card you kind of want to drop, there are a number of them. Like, you can potentially not run N. I'm a very big proponent of N, but you don't have to, and you could potentially drop like the 3rd Sycamore or one of the Trainer's Mails or one of those max elixirs down. Any of those can go potentially to fit in this Colress. We do have a lot of supporters, so I'm a little hesitant to drop a non-supporter to get this guy in because it can hurt your consistency depending on your draw. But we have a lot of, we can fill up our bench quickly with Shamans and Flareons without having to worry too much about it. And this guy's heavy draw power, because our opponents will tend to fuel this guy pretty well, makes him an excellent Versus Seeker target. And yeah, he's not going to discard fire energies or extra supporters for you, but what he is going to do is he's going to sit in your discard pile, and anytime the bench gets heavy, this guy can be a great Versus Seeker target to draw you 8, 9, 10 cards potentially, or against something like, say, Mega Rayquaza, if you actually see it. I mean, then you can even be opting into more cards still. So definitely an excellent card to run. I opted not to run it in this build myself, but you can definitely opt in to run it for you, and wouldn't hold it against you. It's an amazing card, and it's one of the best things you can take advantage of in Expanded, in my mind. So anyway, until next time, like, comment, subscribe, check me out on Twitter. The link is below, and I will see you next time.